Look up Ozempic and eyes, and there are some disturbing things to be found on the internet. But what do we really know about the dark side of Ozempic? Is there really cause for concern? Jonathan Jarry is with the McGill Office for Science and Society. Hi, Jonathan.
Hi.
So there's bound to be conspiracy theories about Ozempic, right, on the internet. So what are they saying?
So at the extreme end of the spectrum, I've seen people comment on an anti-vax website that the FDA in the United States wants to give Ozempic to 6-year-olds in order to blind them so that they can't see the evil satanic cabal that is secretly controlling the world. At the sane end of the spectrum are doctors and scientists and researchers who are expressing concerns in the medical literature about small potential increases in the risk of developing a very specific and rare form of blindness.
Okay, now, there's also talk of the venom of a North American lizard. Now, what does that have to do with any of this?
To make a long story short, so the venom of the Gila monster, Gila, it's a Spanish word, it contains a molecule similar to GLP-1, which our bodies make and which plays a role in how we absorb sugar. A lab-made version of this molecule was approved as an injectable drug for diabetes in 2005. Other molecules in that class have been developed since. Many of them help with weight loss as well, and that is how we arrive at semaglutide, known as Ozempic, to treat diabetes, or Wegovy for weight loss.
Now, the benefits of taking drugs such as Ozempic or Wegovy are clear. Why is it so much more difficult to determine the risks?
Because very rare side effects, they can't be detected in a clinical trial because a clinical trial does not recruit millions of participants. We saw this when the COVID-19 vaccines were developed. That is why there is what is called post-market surveillance, which helps detect these sort of really rare side effects and complications that will affect, something like 1 in a million people.
And while there are some studies that suggest there is a small risk for eye problems, there are also issues with these studies as well.
Yeah, so the main emerging concern for Ozempic/Wegovy, it's a very specific type of blindness called non-arteritic anterior ischemic optic neuropathy, or NION for short. People with NION, they will go blind in one eye very suddenly and painlessly because their optic nerve is affected. This occurred before Ozempic existed, but it was rare. In the US, which has a population of 340 million, it was around 6,000 new cases being diagnosed with NION each year. There are questions now as to whether that risk is increased for people on Ozempic/Wegovy. Handful of studies have been done. Some see increases in the risk, but they don't agree on how much. Others show no increase. And the problem is that these studies, they are done in databases. So researchers will look up patients who have NION and those who don't, and within each group, who was prescribed Ozempic and who wasn't, and they compare the numbers. But when you are simply interrogating those databases, you are missing information. So for example, the people who were prescribed Ozempic, were they still injecting themselves with it? We know that a lot of people will stop because of the nausea. So if they weren't using the medication, then their blindness can be caused by it. Other databases didn't have info on blood pressure, for instance. And we know that high blood pressure is a potential risk factor for NION. So it is, unfortunately, really hard to know for sure at this point.
And there are always risks and uncertainties, right? Whether it is for a drug or for a condition such as diabetes.
Right. So what medical doctors have to do is they have to weigh the known risks and the known benefits of an intervention against the risks of not treating the disease. It's important to point out that diabetes, for instance, comes with its own risk of blindness in the form of diabetic retinopathy. And in fact, before doctors had drugs to prescribe for diabetes, diabetic retinopathy affected the majority of people with diabetes over time. So when we discuss the potential rare risks of Ozempic, we do have to be careful not to forget the inherent risks of the untreated disease itself.
So what is the overall verdict on drugs such as Ozempic or Wegovy?
They have clear benefits. They do cause nausea in a lot of people, especially in the beginning. And there are still open questions about rarer complications tied to this drug, including NION and including macular degeneration, where a similarly limited database study saw an increased risk. The version of Health Canada that Europeans have, its agency recommended last month that this potential increased risk of NION be declared in the information leaflet that comes with the medication. I don't believe Health Canada has made a statement yet. We'll just have to keep an eye on these developments.
Okay. Thank you very much for this, Jonathan.
Thanks for having me.